One of the questions I get absolutely the most is regarding shock absorption, strike absorption in Russian Systema. First thing I want to preface this with is the notion that in certain approaches to the Russian Systema, there is a huge emphasis placed on shock absorption. In my own approach, it's far less. It's an occasional thing. We're doing it today, but it's an occasional study. I think that in many approaches, it's far too heavily indulged, and the advantage and the objective is lost, and I will explain this. The goal of shock absorption is to learn how to functionalize our flinch response, to identify what makes us flinch, how we get tight, how we get contracted, and then to learn how to soften it up, relatively speaking. Relaxation is relative to context. If we were fully relaxed, we'd just be lying in a pool of our own feces on the ground. There's always a necessary level of contraction that must stay in the body to be operational and functional, but relative relaxation refers to the efficiency of the body, learning how to move with good synergy without being robbed of our performance because of excessive harmful tension. So learning how the strike, how the promise of the strike even makes us tense, and then how we can best resolve that without going completely to pot and losing all contraction in the body. So that's the primary advantage. Learning how to recover from getting winded, a smaller secondary advantage. But it needs to be noted, we generally strike the stomach at the beginning, then get a little bit into the face, the arms, and the legs, but generally the stomach because it's the most durable, because we can take significant hits to the torso, and we can likewise learn to strike better. There's a psychophysical sort of effect of striking a pad versus striking a person. It's quite different. So we need to learn how to strike a person. That's the first thing. So when we're striking each other, we're striking the stomach because we can we can take it and we can push the work further. In an actual context, we're very rarely going to be struck to the stomach, or likewise very rarely strike another person in the stomach, and certainly not in isolation. If we're struck to the stomach, it's after we're winded, or on the ground, we're being, kicked in the gut, or we're getting a good body shot to open the mouth to get a good hook. But it's very rare that somebody's actually going to target and prioritize your stomach. So the direct combative application is very, very low. Keep that in mind. This is really more of a psychophysical drill, identifying flinch, learning how to functionalize our fear, and learning how to move. The first step of doing this is purely muscular conditioning. We need to learn how to contract, what to contract, how to engage the pelvic floor, how to engage the coccyx, neutralize that base, pull in our core, pull in our ribs, pull the abdominal wall into the stomach, and how to breathe in that state. We refer to this breath as reactive breath, as opposed to a cognitive breath where we're breathing by our own volition. A reactive breath is assisted by compression. It's not a cognitive breath. It's a truly responsive breath, as if a sponge is being squeezed and a proportionate amount of air is coming out. And likewise, when that sponge is released, a proportionate amount of the puddle or the water it's touching will be sucked in. In exactly the same way, the push, the punch, the hit, the impact helps us expel, and the return to form and the movement of the body helps us inhale. So we begin with purely muscular abdominal exercises to really isolate that contraction. We then add degrees of stress and impact under that duress. So we learn how to balance contraction, not forget about engaging the floor, and not forget about contracting. And oftentimes at this stage when we start to hit, we learn we've been contracting wrongly all along. And then once that's possible, we can take a little bit of impact, we stand it up. We get into the so-called Systema squat, which is really a study of how low can I squat, usually 3 to 6 centimeters, with my pelvic floor fully engaged. And what difference does it make when I release that pelvic floor and I plunge just below that sort of pelvic floor line, right? When the coccyx comes out and I drop below. Systema squatting much below that is really of limited and diminishing returns, and there are far better ways to condition the leg that require less specific flexibility. So really the Systema squat is a 6 to 8 centimeter spectrum of motion, plunging down to that pelvic floor, learning to see what kind of power I can take from there, and then learning ways to release the pelvic floor by either taking a step or disengaging and temporarily dropping out that pelvic floor, the tailbone, so I can drop under it. Keep in mind, I don't stay in that gaping state. If I release my pelvic floor and then take another shot right away, anus is gaping open, there's no real sort of thoracic or abdominal integrity, and any hit coming in is going to seek that fire exit to escape. The force is going to go out of the anus rather than being redirected to the mouth, where it can be more safely controlled. Then after that, there's the very psychophysical work of sort of learning to hit, learning to take the hit and recover from the hit. And so there are a number of postures that we can use. The postures vary, but they're generally designed to reopen the diaphragm. So when the lungs sort of stick together, the diaphragm ceases to engage correctly. It's invited to open. I don't want to allow myself to crumple up into a ball like a sea urchin. I want to open the body and then just focus on breathing correctly. Truth be told, if I get hit hard enough, lungs seal up, I forget to breathe, I pass out, I'm on the ground barely conscious. The body will often correct itself. But we want to teach ourselves in a very exaggerated state how to open the body. Again, not directly combatively applicable. In a combative state, we might do it in a clinch, for example, where I get my body up against another person, I open up and I learn to recover. But in training like this, which is more of a psychophysical nature, I really want to learn to take that maximum hit, get winded, and then find comfort in an open thoracic position, and also to find confidence in my capacity to navigate my way back from that wilderness of pain. And then after that, we just get into a free play of hitting, learning how to take hits without really knowing where they're coming from. So these are some really easy steps. This is how we do it. People will often ask, how tense do I keep my stomach? Is it fully contracted? Is it moderately contracted? I trained with one guy who was really fit and his abs were super hard all the time. Another guy I trained with was kind of doughy, and when I hit him, there was absolutely no contraction. This is really up to you. It's a matter of preference. I tell people your abs can be like a beach ball, they can be like a sort of intermediate volleyball, or they can be hard like a fully inflated basketball. What matters is that you find the level of contraction that's comfortable for you. But what's absolutely essential is that that ball, whether it's a beach ball, a volleyball, or a basketball, is floating in a pool of water. Because any ball floating in a pool of water when pressed will just slip out on the side. This is exactly how I want my hips to be. My hips are the water, so that stomach, whether it's fully intermediately or not at all contracted, has the pelvis engaged, and it can release, but it can also move laterally, rotationally, it can circle. You can work just with footwork moving as a solid piece, and all of these factors will help you massively increase your confidence and understand the inherent power and capacity in your thorax.